On the wedding day, I accidentally discovered Jonas's phone had saved a voice message. When I played it, there was a sweet and tender voice saying, "Hubby, I miss you." Facing my questioning, Jonas remained calm. I admit, I had ulterior motives, but that was just her punishment for losing a dare, nothing more. Their chat records also confirmed this, very mundane, very ordinary, never crossing any boundaries, yet as I read them, tears kept falling, soaking the wedding dress I was wearing. Jonas. Delete her, and we can continue with the ceremony. After 7 years in a long-distance relationship, we were just one step away from the finish line. Not long ago, I had even just found out I was pregnant, which could have made it a double celebration, but at that moment, a girl dressed as a cleaner suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, turned away with reddened eyes, and ran off. Recognizing who she was, Jonas chased after her without hesitation. I grabbed his arm. "If you dare leave, don't even think about marrying me ever again in this lifetime. Think carefully." What answered me was Jonas prying my fingers off one by one, his retreating back stiff and unyielding. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I staggered, a sharp pain shooting through my ankle. The wedding dress's train was too large, the sweeping tail I had so carefully chosen, the first time I tried it on. Jonas looked at me with awe in his eyes, holding me close as he choked up and said he was finally going to marry me. But now, the bride he wants to marry has fallen behind, and he didn't even turn his head. Is it because that girl coughed up blood that he's in such a hurry? He'd rather abandon me, his parents, and all the relatives and guests at such a crucial moment. Just 5 minutes ago, Jonas was still assuring me, "Luna, I never thought of betraying you. Since you mind, I'll cut off all contact with her. Once the internship ends, I'll transfer Sally out of the law firm." Jonas is the top litigator in South City and a partner at a prestigious Red Circle law firm. He has always been responsible and dependable, not the type to deceive, so I decided to take a gamble. Clearly, I lost the bet, and lost miserably. The skin on my legs beneath the skirt was scraped raw, and the nearby mirror reflected my tear-streaked makeup. The phone buzzed with a vibration. "Sally isn't acting right. I'm worried someone might get hurt. I'll calm her down first, then come back to continue the wedding. Wait for me," Jonas is explaining to me, but I don't want to listen anymore. After 7 years together, he knows how long I've been waiting for this day. With the law firm being so busy, Jonas always makes me wait. He kept postponing our movie dates, time and time again. Dinner plans we made were always delayed until late at night, even on my birthday. I had to wait until he finished handling his cases. I never complained, because Jonas said he was working hard for our future. He vowed to give me a home that belonged to us. The wedding house was decorated in the rustic wood style I loved, with many green plants on the balcony. We would also have a lovely child, and my parents lived just a 10-minute walk from our neighborhood. Everything was perfectly planned. A future within reach lay ahead, just by walking forward normally. We could arrive at the destination of happiness. Why did he suddenly let go of my hand? He turned away to find someone else. I didn't reply to Jonas, steadied my emotions, and wiped the tear stains from my face. I walked out and calmly announced the cancellation of the wedding. The room immediately buzzed with discussion. Jonas's mother grew anxious. "Luna, what kind of willful nonsense is this? Don't you see how serious the situation is? How can you just cancel a perfectly good wedding like this, with so many guests watching? Where does that leave the dignity of us elders?" Only mother noticed first that my makeup had smeared. "What's going on? Did you have a fight with Jonas?" My eyes welled up with tears as a wave of grievance washed over me. Mom held my hand and comforted me. "Whatever it is, just talk it out. Don't act impulsively out of anger. And Jonas, he's usually so level-headed. Why didn't he stop you?" A dull ache throbbed heavily in the heart. In everyone's eyes, Jonas was universally acknowledged as a good man, mature, steady, and utterly reliable. Yet it was precisely such a man who committed this outrageous act. He ran away from his wedding. Jonas's dad had a weak heart and fainted on the spot when he couldn't catch his breath. The scene grew even more chaotic. The wedding turned into a farce as guests gradually dispersed. An ambulance took Jonas's dad to the hospital, and I went along. After treating the scrapes on my leg, I quietly scheduled an abortion appointment. The pregnancy came as such a shock. Even my mother didn't know. When she found out, she was horrified. "Luna, you need to think this through carefully." I stroked my belly and said with a bitter smile, "I originally wanted to surprise you all after the wedding, but now, never mind. Mom doesn't understand how things between me and Jonas could have escalated like this, when everything was fine just last night. Even over these years, our relationship has always been good. Whenever we had disagreements, it was always Jonas who apologized first. An unfamiliar local call came through. With a guess forming in my heart, I walked to a corner to answer, and sure enough, it was Jonas's voice. He must have finished comforting Sally before remembering me. Luna, my phone died and shut down. No wonder no one could reach him. How's the situation on site? You should be able to handle it, right? If not, it's fine. I'm on my way back now, Jonas said in a natural tone. The groom ran away halfway through the wedding. Didn't he ever consider how much pressure I'd have to bear alone? How am I supposed to come up with a reasonable explanation for his absence? I bit my lip until the taste of blood filled my mouth. Jonas, it's been 5 whole hours. It's dark outside now. What makes you think I'd still be waiting here like an idiot? A long silence followed from the other end, then a resigned sigh. I know I messed up, but it was an emergency. You know how to explain this to Mom and Dad, right? Just don't drag Sally into this. She's innocent. The knuckles gripping the phone turned white with tension. This is what it feels like when heartbreak reaches its peak. We're over, Jonas. Don't bother me again. After hanging up, covering my face, I crouched in the hospital corridor, sobbing uncontrollably, afraid of disturbing others. I could only suppress my sobs. My shoulders trembling uncontrollably as I cried until my brain felt starved of oxygen. A WeChat notification chimed. Through my blurred vision, I saw a pink avatar adding me as a friend via phone number. The verification message read, "I'm sorry, sis. I never meant to make you misunderstand my relationship with the boss. I came specifically to apologize and explain. I wanted to decline, but the tears falling from my eyes interfered with the touchscreen. The moment I accidentally accepted, a photo came through from the other side. The hospital room's glass reflected 2 figures embracing, that tall, sturdy silhouette. How could I not recognize Jonas's outline? The next second, it was withdrawn. Sis, although I've always admired the boss. There's nothing between us. I was hospitalized because of my gastritis, so the boss brought me here to take care of me. He didn't mean to leave you behind. Today is your wedding day, sis. Please don't be jealous of me and ruin your own big day." I silently clicked into her WeChat moments, saw one of her posts from last week. Humph, my clueless straight male boss doesn't even know to add some brown sugar when I'm on my period. The accompanying picture was probably Jonas pouring her a cup of hot water. After 7 years together, Jonas had witnessed my menstrual cycles countless times and knew exactly how to brew ginger and red date tea. Perhaps I should be grateful that he still treated me as someone special, yet at that very moment, Jonas hung up on my call, saying he was busy. What I had wanted to tell him was that my always punctual period was unusually late this month. Most likely, I was pregnant. Luna. What are you doing here? Didn't we agree you'd wait for me to continue the wedding? I looked up and locked eyes with Jonas. I never expected him and Sally to be at this hospital too. My breath caught as I instinctively tightened my grip on the abortion appointment slip in my hand. Seeing my silence, Jonas twitched between his brows and asked tentatively, "You haven't been following me and Sally all this time, have you?" The hallway was silent. I heard my own voice, hoarse from prolonged crying. "Jonas, don't you find this question ridiculous?" The man remained silent, probably also realizing how impossible it was. After a long standoff, he reached out to help me up from the ground, his gaze finally drawn to that document. "What's this?" Jonas's mom suddenly appeared, looking absolutely frantic. "You little brat. Do you realize you nearly killed your father?" Upon hearing the news of his father's hospitalization for a heart condition, Jonas frowned. His gaze towards me tinged with displeasure. "Luna, you know Dad's getting old and can't handle shocks. This is between you and me. Why did you have to go tattling to our parents? Moreover, by carelessly revealing this matter, how do you expect Sally to face others in the future?" Listening to his reproach, my nose tingled with suppressed emotion. A heavy lump of turbid air clogged my chest, neither rising nor falling, leaving me suffocated with discomfort. "Jonas." I called his name with measured emphasis. One should bear the consequences of their own mistakes. Would you really help someone commit perjury in court? This statement was tantamount to questioning Jonas's professional ethics. His face darkened instantly. Jonas's mom pushed her son. "What's this about Sally? You'd better apologize properly to Luna right now. Even if it was for work, you can't just abandon a girl at the wedding like that. It's outrageous. Your father and I are furious." Jonas froze, looking at me in shock. Of course I knew Jonas's dad wasn't in good health. Not revealing Sally's existence had been my last act of dignity in preserving this relationship. As for his reason for fleeing the wedding, Jonas's mom naturally assumed it was work. After all, He was always a workaholic. No one would have guessed that he'd completely lose his composure over a girl he'd known for less than 3 months. An assistant who hadn't even passed the bar exam. Jonas's face turned from pale to ashen, his lips trembling slightly. Sorry, Luna. Of all times, Sally had to show up on her own. I'm sorry, Auntie. I shouldn't have sneaked in. I delayed the boss's wedding. I'm guilty of boo-hoo. She was still holding up in 4 drip, her voice trembling with sobs as she spoke. She looked utterly pitiful. So you're the one called Sally, seeing that Jonas's mom had pieced together what happened and was about to lose her temper. Jonas quickly stepped in to stop her. All right, Mom, it's not Sally's fault. She's a good girl. His protective undertone was evident between the lines. Jonas's mom never expected her usually composed and level-headed son, who could handle anything with ease, to be so emotionally clueless. She was trembling with anger. What about Luna? You two were about to get married. I lowered my head quietly, staring at my still flat stomach, and whispered, we're not getting married anymore. Jonas looked thoroughly disapproving. Luna, don't say things you don't mean. I promised you that I'd transfer Sally after her internship ends. It's all arranged already. What more do you want? The little life inside me seemed to give a faint kick. Perhaps it was just my imagination. Becoming a mother for the first time, I truly couldn't bear the thought of letting go. Where are you planning to transfer her? I asked Jonas. The branch office on Southwest Road. So, what's the difference? I didn't even blink, surprisingly feeling no disappointment. That's already the branch office farthest from headquarters. Luna, are you really determined to drive people out of South City before you're satisfied? She's just a fresh graduate, a young girl. The man who once shielded me firmly behind him, unwilling to let me suffer the slightest harm, now stands opposite me, aggressive and imposing with overwhelming pressure. 7 years of love, just rotted away like this. Suddenly I feel so exhausted. I've cried my fill. He couldn't bear to let Sally leave South City. Fine, I'll be the one to go. The next day, I went to the wedding house to move out my belongings. The window still had the red double happiness paper cuts. Deflated balloons lay in the corner, and our wedding photo with Jonas hung on the wall. Everything proclaimed how this place was supposed to be warm and full of happiness. I sniffled and started packing my luggage. Jonas stood right at the doorway. Luna, how much longer are you going to carry on like this? I remained silent. Her movements froze when she caught sight of a particular photo album. In the most prominent spot, there lay a yellowed graduation group photo. At 18, youth brims over. Sincerity burns bright, and we promise that a teenager's fleeting heartbeat will last forever. After all, things have changed. Yesterday was indeed my fault. Jonas rubbed his temples, his voice full of helplessness. As compensation, I bought us 2 tickets to Iceland for our honeymoon. With a layover, we can also stop and explore Scandinavia for a while. He probably thought I'd be pleasantly surprised. After all, seeing the northern lights in Iceland and skiing in Scandinavia have always been my dreams. Return it. My reaction was beyond Jonas's expectations. We're not even married yet. Why talk about a honeymoon trip? Jonas stiffened slightly, then stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me from behind. All right, Luna. I know you're angry and upset, but that's enough. Okay, he rarely puts on this coaxing demeanor. I used to fall for this act the most. I've contacted the hotel about the wedding. We'll have a makeup ceremony after our trip, and I'll explain to the guests. I pushed him away forcefully. Jonas, I told you yesterday, if you dared to leave, I wouldn't marry you again. What are you pretending now? Jonas gazed at me with deep, somber eyes. Marrying you is my duty and obligation. You've been with me for 7 years. I'm a man. As time wore on, he married me no longer out of love. I chuckled self-deprecatingly and turned to leave when last week's pregnancy test report fell out. Jonas picked it up to look, his expression shifting from shock to overwhelming joy. On one hand, he was genuinely happy about the arrival of this new life. On the other hand, he naturally assumed that no matter how angry I was, I could never leave him now. Luna, be good and take a few days to calm down. I'll come pick you up when the time comes. Jonas handed me the plane ticket, then drove to the law firm and went about his work as usual. His parents, upon hearing about my pregnancy, came to our door with nutritional supplements. My parents sent them away. On the day scheduled for the abortion procedure, Jonas's mom happened to be taking Jonas's dad to the hospital for a cardiac follow-up and ran into them. She begged me desperately not to act impulsively. The child is innocent. Let's discuss this properly. All right, you and Jonas have been together for 7 years. You've always been the one he loves most. That Sally can't shake your place in his heart. I kept a straight face as Jonas's mom called Jonas right in front of me. Contrary to her imagined urgency and concern, Jonas responded with nothing but resignation. Hasn't Luna had enough of this drama yet? Alright, I'll be back later. I'm making congee for Sally. Her gastritis hasn't gotten better yet. Jonas's mom was incredulous. Your own flesh and blood is about to be gone. Instead of rushing over here right now, you're still making congee for some outside woman. There was 3 seconds of silence on the other end, the tone noticeably dropping several degrees. Luna was just speaking in anger. She adores children so much. How could she bear to do it? Besides, surgeries require advance appointments. It's not like she can just get one done whenever she wants now. I already know about the situation, Mom. Don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing. The call ended, and when I tried calling back, all I got was a busy tone. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with a confirmation text from a flower shop for a successful order, 999 pink roses. Jonas's gift to appease me, without batting an eye. I ignored Jonas's mom's tearful pleas and entered the operating room. 3 hours later, Jonas arrived fashionably late with a bouquet of flowers. Pale as a ghost. Luna, where's the child? Lying on the hospital bed, my face was drained of color, yet my gaze was as cold as if looking at a stranger. Jonas dropped the large bouquet of pink roses in his hands, trembling as he moved closer to me. Luna, you're joking with me, right? He grabbed my hand, gripping it tightly. The anesthesia hadn't worn off yet, and my body was mostly numb. I didn't feel any pain, just a little annoyed. Stop lying to yourself, Jonas. The man's voice was hoarse, almost choked with sobs. Why did you abort our child? I gazed into his bloodshot eyes, as if he truly cared about me, about this child. Give me one reason why I should keep it, Jonas answered without hesitation. We've loved each other for 7 years. We're about to get married. This is the fruit of our love. Yes, we were going to get married, yet at the wedding I'd waited 7 years for, you abandoned me to chase after another woman. Jonas felt utterly helpless. Luna, she was vomiting blood at the time, didn't you see? Human lives are at stake here. You can't use that as evidence. The sheets crumpled in my clenched fists as I worked the muscles around my mouth. She's vomiting blood. You could call an ambulance, ask others for help. Or contact the hotel manager. Why did it have to be you who went personally? Why? Even the eloquent Mr. Jonas couldn't answer this question. Truth be told, we all knew the answer in our hearts while pretending to ask the question. 7 years is too long. His heart began to wander. I sighed softly. Jonas, you know I've always been sensitive, suspicious, and my intuition is sharp. 2 months ago, when I brought you lunch at the law firm and saw that girl for the first time, I had this dangerous intuition, but I want to believe in you. All these years, it's not like there haven't been other girls throwing themselves at you, nor that young puppies haven't actively pursued me. We've resisted all temptations to get where we are today. I thought, this time would be no different. I paused, wanting to laugh, yet a scalding tear still escaped the corner of my eye. It was my arrogance to think you still loved me like before. This tear might have pierced Jonas's heart. An overwhelming sense of loss swept over him. In panic, he reached to wipe my tears, instinctively murmuring in a hoarse voice, Luna, I've always loved you, and I can't live without you. I turned my head away. His hand froze mid-air before finally withdrawing after a long pause. Jonas saying he loves me might be a lie, but he didn't want to lose me. That must be true, at least for the short term. 7 years was enough to tightly bind us together in every way. His life had long been filled with traces of me everywhere. Love can change so easily, but habits are hard to break. Breaking bones still connected by blood, that's the price of severing a long-term intimate relationship. Jonas, I told you it's over between us. I smiled faintly at him. From now on, we'll both have to get used to life without each other. The only silver lining is that Jonas and I had originally decided to hold the wedding before getting our marriage license. Otherwise, if we have to go through a divorce lawsuit against Jonas, I stand no chance of winning. Jonas kneels by my hospital bed. Luna, we can have another child. Let's not separate. Please don't say things in anger, okay? I shook my head. It's not an angry remark, but a decision I've thought through carefully. Jonas had bloodshot eyes, confusion swirling in their depths, his voice urgent. Luna, I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything that truly betrayed you. Aside from this matter, I've been a decent enough boyfriend all these years, haven't I? Why won't you forgive me just this once? I looked straight into his eyes and said, because I've already given you a chance. Remember after the wedding ceremony? Jonas's phone was left in my care. The password is my birthday, and I'm also pinned at the top of his WeChat, yet in his collection that originally held only work documents, a brief 3-second voice message now stood out abruptly. When played, It was a girl's sweet, tender voice. Honey, I miss you. The smile froze at the corners of my lips. Instantly, all the blood in my body turned ice cold. Outside, fireworks were still bursting, firecrackers popping, and gongs and drums clamoring. Yet it was as if I had suddenly gone deaf. The entire world fell silent, and all I could hear was this sentence echoing endlessly in my ears. The time displayed 1 week ago, at 6 in the evening. It was a day off. And as Jonas and I passed through the baby section at the supermarket, I deliberately asked him, Jonas, if you became a dad right now, would you be happy? He looked at his phone and said of course he would. What do you think of this little baby outfit? It's white. Unisex. And on sale too. Why don't we just buy it now? And this stroller looks pretty good quality as well. Buy these now. Amid my constant chattering, Jonas looked up helplessly and smiled. Luna, isn't it a bit too early? We've got plenty of time later. I noticed his absent-mindedness and swallowed the words I was about to say. I decided to tell him about the surprise another time. Only later did I connect the dots, and my chest tightened as if I were suffocating. While I was lost in beautiful fantasies about our future, he was drowning in another woman's embrace. At the wedding, I've mentally prepared myself countless times. If time could rewind, going back to a month ago when I wasn't pregnant yet, I could have straightforwardly, angrily broken up and walked away. But my parents are right outside now, waiting with joyful hearts to see me as a bride. Our love train is about to reach its happy final destination. I don't want to make a scene. Don't want to disappoint the elders. Don't want my 7 years of youth to end without closure. Maybe I can forgive Jonas this once. Just a voice message. It's not like we slept together. I went through his entire phone, their chat history, Jonas's hotel booking records, online shopping and food delivery history. Everything was perfectly normal. As long as he promised me to cut off all contact with that girl, I could pretend to know nothing and continue with the wedding ceremony. Still holding his hand as we walked toward life's end together. What happened afterward, Jonas? Do I need to say more? The man kneeling by the hospital bed slightly bent his waist. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. His apology left me utterly unmoved. My demeanor cold, the moment you shook off my hand. I woke up from the dream. The opportunity you're kneeling here begging me for now was the very one you personally chose to abandon back then. Jonas bowed his head deeply. I continued, Jonas, you're unworthy to be my husband, let alone a father to our child. My hand rested on my empty belly, where a little life had once taken root. It was still so small when it left me forever. Rather than letting a child be born into an incomplete family, it's better not to come into this world at all. Outside the ward, my mother came to bring me food. When she saw Jonas kneeling there, she flew into a rage and immediately threw the food container at him. You're not welcome here. Get out. Get out right now. Jonas's mom, seeing her son being beaten, she stomped her feet on the spot, wanting to intervene, but ultimately resigned herself with a bitter smile. My child, why must you insist on this? I've tried reasoning with you over the phone, even scolded you, but you wouldn't listen. Now it's too late for regrets. Jonas' eyes turned red with emotion. He truly never expected I would resolutely choose to have an abortion. After hanging up his mother's call, Jonas pinched the bridge of his nose. Sally noticed and cooed sweetly. Boss, is it too much trouble for you to cook porridge for me? No. Jonas absent-mindedly watched the porridge bubbling in the pot. Suddenly, he thought of me. During the early days of establishing the law firm, when entrepreneurship was at its toughest, he often couldn't secure clients. I accompanied him to one drinking session after another, meeting various clients. He drank until his stomach bled. And I didn't feel any better either. The next day, I still forced my exhausted body to cook him a soothing porridge to nourish his stomach. His cooking skills were also learned from me. At this thought, Jonas paused slightly, his hand holding the spoon frozen mid-air. An inexplicable panic rose in his chest, as if something was about to slip from his control, something he was on the verge of losing completely. Sally, the porridge is almost done. Turn off the heat in 5 minutes and eat by yourself. Jonas turned the heat to low, then turned to grab his suit jacket draped over the dining chair. I'm leaving first. Just as he was about to step out the door, the woman's bonelessly soft hands wrapped around him from behind. Boss, Sally bit her lip and changed how she addressed him. Jonas. Jonas swallowed hard, his body rigid, not immediately pushing her away. Sally, I should go. Sally's voice trembled with tears. I don't want you to leave. If you go, will I never see you again? Jonas, you know I like you. I've liked you since the first moment I saw you, but you have a girlfriend, so I've had to hide my feelings every time. Since you're leaving anyway, why don't we? Sally seemed to throw caution to the wind. Closing her eyes, she began taking off her clothes. Perhaps for the last time, I'll indulge my true feelings, faced with such bold affection from a young girl. Jonas couldn't possibly remain unmoved. He knew full well that he was wavering, otherwise, he wouldn't have inexplicably saved Sally's voice message when it arrived. Time and again, I would open it to listen in the quiet of the night. Sometimes, I even lay by his side. He would gaze quietly at my sleeping face, feeling not just guilt, but also a thrill. After living a life of routine for so long, who wouldn't crave something new? But Jonas had always been rational, weighing pros and cons. He knew exactly what stepping over that line would entail. His wife could only be me. Besides, I'm pregnant now. As a lawyer, he'd handled countless divorce cases. How despicable are men who cheat during their partner's pregnancy. Jonas sighed, picked up Sally's clothes, gently dressed her, and softly wiped away the tear stains at the corners of her eyes. Sally, I can't betray Luna. Let me stay with you a little longer. Sally wiped away her tears and smiled. Only after accompanying Sally to finish her porridge and waiting for her to fall asleep, Jonas finally stepped out the front door. The sunlight outside was brilliant. It was a beautiful day. He thought to himself that he was a decent man after all. One who could face me and his parents with a clear conscience. He smiled. Suddenly remembering I was still sulking, he went to fetch some fresh flowers. Passing by a maternity store, he wandered inside. The racks displayed an assortment of baby clothes, but he couldn't recall which style I had wanted to buy originally. He casually picked out 2 pieces, one for a man and one for a woman, and went to check out. The shop assistant even smiled and complimented him. Sir, you clearly are a good man. Your wife is truly fortunate. Jonas knew it was just a sales tactic. But he couldn't help feeling pleased. I bought another pile of baby toys. He thought happily, this should finally make her stop being angry with me. Until the bloody reality unfolded before his eyes. He was finally overwhelmed with regret. Jonas hadn't seen me for several consecutive days. Every time he came to the hospital ward to visit me, my parents would angrily chase him away, until the day I was discharged. He finally seized the opportunity to place a rebooked plane ticket in my hand. Saying to me earnestly, Luna, I know you haven't forgiven me yet. I'm willing to court you all over again. Let's start fresh, okay? Right in Iceland, your favorite place. I'll confess my love again. Propose to you properly. Mid-sentence, his phone suddenly rang. Glancing at the number, Jonas's expression stiffened slightly, hanging up decisively. Luna, please believe me. This time I won't let you down. Buzz. This time it was my phone ringing. I lowered my head to unlock the phone. My fingers swiping to answer. On the other end came Sally's voice. Sis, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't bother you, but I'm really not feeling well. Could you help me ask the boss for leave? I gestured to Jonas and handed him the phone. It's for you. Jonas said with a cold face, growling into the phone. I've already transferred you to the branch office. Your supervisor isn't me now, so don't bother me with trivial matters like leave requests. Sally began to sob softly. Jonas hung up again. Lowering his eyes nervously to observe my expression, seeing my indifferent reaction without getting angry. Instead, he furrowed his brows, feeling the situation had taken a turn for the worse. Luna, since that day, I really haven't contacted her again. And MHM, Mom has already completed the discharge procedures and is calling me. Turning around, Jonas stands in the morning light, his handsome features as clear as snow, just like that day years ago when he confessed his feelings to me. It was also in such gentle morning light. Jonas, I spoke softly. His back stiffened, his gaze froze, and my reflection appeared in his dark pupils. Goodbye, I said to him. Farewell, the boy I once loved so deeply. I packed my luggage and headed to the airport. The year I graduated from university, I received a high-paying job offer abroad, but I chose to stay in the country for Jonas. Now that I'm going back, even though I can't get the same position as before, I'm confident that I can still make a name for myself. In the flowing sea of people, I saw Jonas again. He looked around as if searching for someone, but after a long wait, the person he was expecting never appeared. He seemed lonely and desolate, his tall, slender frame unable to hold itself up any longer as he crouched down on the spot, his palm pressed against his forehead, shoulders trembling. He was crying. I watched quietly for a while. Finally, I turned and boarded another flight. Not long after I left, Jonas's dad has had another worsening of his heart condition, and according to the doctor, he doesn't have many years left. Jonas's mom crumbled under the pressure and started urging Jonas to get married soon. She couldn't bear the thought of his father passing away without seeing him settled down. Jonas grew irritated by the nagging and snapped back a few words. Jonas's mom then began crying and blaming him. saying, Luna was such a wonderful girl. And you didn't cherish her. If you had, you'd be married by now, and your father and I could have been holding our grandchild. At the mention of me, Jonas immediately lost his temper, leaving only silence. What happened afterward, I don't know either. My parents had already sold the house and moved to settle down elsewhere. It wasn't until 3 years later that I returned to the country to oversee a project. Right next to the company was Jonas' law firm, its entrance deserted. No longer the high-end bustling place it once was. Seeing my attention focused there, the project partner took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me. It's truly lamentable to think about. One of the nation's top 10 prestigious law firms, once renowned across the country, ultimately fell because of a woman. He glanced at me, worried I might find his remark inappropriate. Clearing his throat, he added, of course, the men weren't innocent either. I let out a questioning "Oh, Jonas, I wonder if Ms. Luna has heard of this person." Seeing me nod, he continued, Mr. Jonas was once a truly formidable presence in our southern city. I heard he had a girlfriend who stood by him when he started from nothing, but he publicly jilted her at their wedding banquet, all for his female assistant, and now, the mistress has taken the throne and become the official wife. I sat on the leather sofa in the office, holding a teacup, and took a small sip. This outcome didn't surprise me in the least. The moment I chose to leave and make room for her, I knew this day would come, whether it was Jonas genuinely wanting to marry, or Jonas's mom forcing the marriage out of desperation. For both of them, I offer my respect, blessings, and a firm stay together forever. This matter has spread throughout the legal circle, inevitably affecting the firm's reputation, but frankly speaking, as long as personal emotions don't interfere with work, with Mr. Jonas's capabilities, clients wouldn't have all fled, leaving him in this state. Mainly it's because the ancestor he married home is simply too much trouble. Mr. Jonas would be in court sessions, and she'd still call to check on him if he didn't answer. She'd make a scene, crying, making threats, even pretending to hang herself, all under the guise of feeling insecure. Several sure win cases were lost because of this. Who dare hire him after that? The partner clicked his tongue and shook his head. I smiled. It was his own choice. He has no one to blame. After finishing the business discussion, I left the company and thought about getting a drink at the coffee shop across the street. Little did I expect the very person we had just been talking about to appear before me. That once proud and dazzling Jonas, who was invincible in court, now looks utterly wretched. I almost didn't recognize him. Luna, is it really you? I must be seeing things. Jonas looked agitated, as if wanting to step forward and embrace me, but restrained himself. Pretending not to know him wasn't realistic, so I gave him a faint nod. Long time no see, Mr. Jonas. Jonas opened his mouth. Luna, what did you just call me? I smiled. What, after 3 years, have you changed careers and stopped being a lawyer? Jonas sighed helplessly. That's not what I meant, Luna. Must you keep such distance between us? I pointed at the ring on his left hand. After all, you're a married man now. Jonas looked slightly embarrassed as he tucked his right hand into his pocket and naturally took the seat across from me. Let's not talk about that. Long time no see. Let me buy you a drink. Still want a cappuccino? I flipped through the menu and ordered something else. Got tired of it long ago. The next half hour, Jonas kept trying to find topics to talk to me about, asking if I was doing well abroad and if I had adjusted. After all this build-up, he finally cautiously asked that question. Luna, have you gotten married? I nodded. Of course. Jonas suddenly spilled a few drops of coffee on his hand. Is that so? Congratulations. He forced a smile, the curve stiff. His gaze tinged with pain. Before I could say anything more, a sharp interrogation came from behind me. Sally's piercing voice. Jonas, who gave you permission to secretly meet another woman behind my back? Tell me, who is she? Have you two been sneaking around all along, in front of everyone? Sally showed no regard for Jonas's dignity. Her voice was so loud it seemed she wanted the whole world to hear and take her side. I pondered thoughtfully. Perhaps this is what they call a guilty conscience. Having risen through underhanded means herself, she assumes other women must be the same. That's why she's so insecure. Until she clearly saw my face, Sally suddenly choked, as if she'd seen a ghost. You're back. Jonas frowned and scolded in a low voice. Haven't you caused enough trouble? I had no interest in watching their drama, so I stood up, paid for my coffee, and pushed the door open to leave. Jonas wanted to chase after me. Sally grabbed him, her eyes red with tears. Jonas, if you dare go after her, we're getting a divorce. In response, Jonas pushed away and fell onto the cold ground. Jonas had been pestering me for days. It wasn't until the project collaboration was finalized that I boarded an international flight again. Luna, let me accompany you, okay? I still haven't taken you to Iceland as promised. Sorry, Mr. Jonas. I smiled politely. Iceland. My husband has already taken me there. It is indeed beautiful there. The next I heard about Jonas was his divorce from Sally. As a lawyer, Sally stood no chance against him in court. After being left with nothing, she completely broke down and lost her mind. As for Jonas, the law firm he had painstakingly built had already gone bankrupt. Jonas's dad also passed away with regrets on New Year's Eve. He had lost everything. Meanwhile, I brought my parents abroad and celebrated a lively new year with my daughter, husband, and his family. Nothing could be more fulfilling in life than this. The end. Story 2. The day I reunited with my birth parents, they fitted me with expensive hearing aids. When I heard sounds again after so long, my first thought was to find Louis and share the good news with him. But when I found him, he was complaining to his friends. I know my limits. My family would never let me marry a poor, deaf girl. I just thought she was sweet, so I played along with her, my father said. The youngest daughter of the Carlson family has been found, and we are to be married in the future, just as I had imagined. His voice was pleasant to hear, yet the words he spoke chilled me to the bone. Turning his head and seeing me, a flicker of panic crossed his face before he calmly signed to ask why I had come. I suddenly wanted to know, Louis, what expression would he have if he knew I was the newly found youngest daughter of the Carlson family? Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The few of them were chatting with their backs to me. Louis's voice was pleasant, not much different from what I had imagined, but his words chilled me to the bone. All right, you don't need to tell me. I already know that Ruby and I are not from the same world. My dad already warned me beforehand. You can have fun, but I'm going to have an arranged marriage later. I know my limits. My family would never let me marry a poor, deaf-mute girl, and I don't even need an arranged marriage right now. Ruby is so sweet. What's wrong with me having some fun with her? His brother beside him sneered. You're really not a person. He took it as a compliment, his eyes crinkling with laughter. My dad said, the Carlson family's youngest daughter has been found. Ruby is currently participating in some Go competition. I'll break up with her after this period. How about that? Thoughtful, right? I heard every word he said clearly. Yet I stood there dumbfounded. Had it been too long since I last heard someone speak? Why do these words make no sense when put together? The boy in front had his shoulder bumped by a classmate and turned to look at me. Louis froze, a hint of nervousness in his smile. Ruby, what are you doing here? I stared intently at his mouth. There was no mistaking it. That sound had come from him. Seeing me silently watching him without a word, Louis finally relaxed. He'd been told Ruby was a deaf-mute girl. Why had he gotten so worked up, as if she could actually hear him? He raised his hands to sign. Why are you suddenly coming to find me now? Miss me? I watched his slender, long fingers and slowly came back to my senses. Although I desperately wanted to deceive myself, it wasn't until this moment that I realized the boy I held in my heart was rotten from the start. I wished I could slap him right now and walk away with flair. But seeing his friends behind him exchanging knowing glances and remembering Louis's words just now, a surge of anger welled up inside me. It was such a coincidence. Louis would never have guessed that I was both the poor deaf-mute girl he spoke of and the youngest daughter that the Carlson family had just found. I don't know what prompted me, but I didn't expose him. I shook my head, saying nothing. Louis gently placed his hand on my shoulder. Perfect timing. I just finished here. Shall I take you to dinner? I nodded obediently and followed closely by his side. The boy behind us teased playfully. Louis, are you really bringing this little deaf girl to the dinner party? Louis turned his back to me. Thinking I couldn't see his lips moving and wouldn't know what he was saying, didn't plan to bring her originally, but she tagged along. What can I do? The little thing's kinda clingy, might as well let her see the world. I always knew Louis's family was quite wealthy. But seeing this massive private dining room made me realize, if I hadn't been recognized by the Carlson family, Louis and I probably wouldn't even belong to the same social class. In a sense, what he said was not wrong. Marcus, you're here too. Louis's body stiffened slightly, and I followed his gaze. The man seemed more composed than us. He leaned languidly against the main seat in a gray casual outfit. Seeing me look over, he raised an eyebrow. Girlfriend. Louis felt somewhat awkward. Marcus was the eldest in their business circle and usually didn't care to hang out with them. It just so happened today. He glanced at the docile girl beside him who kept her eyes downcast, unsure how to respond. If he said she was his girlfriend, Ruby's family background really wasn't much to speak of. If not, then why did he bring it? Marcus didn't seem to expect an answer as he silently flipped through the menu. Louis let out a long sigh. Despite being the same age, he always felt like a junior in front of Marcus. Perhaps it was because some of his family's projects were still under the control of Marcus's father, making him feel inferior. He didn't like it, but he didn't show it. The friend beside me handed over the menu. Louis, ask your wife what she'd like to eat. But then, remembering something, they laughed and teased. Forgot your wife can't speak. Louis, how about you perform some sign language for everyone? Louis's face flushed slightly as he glanced at Marcus. Seeing that the other wasn't looking his way, he kicked his friend's chair. Just eat your food. He turned to ask me, anything you'd like to eat. Watching his sign language, I gently shook my head, but his brother, at the very last second before the waiter took the menu away, loudly called out, hello, add some pig ears. They say you are what you eat. So let's get some for sister-in-law, maybe her ears will get better. Another friend laughed and cursed, you little rascal. That sister-in-law is already mute. Why don't you go ahead and order a pig snout too? Waiter, do you have pig snout? The group burst into laughter, and I secretly glanced at Louis beside me, whose lips curled up as if he also found it amusing. He didn't defend me, nor did he interrupt his friend's remarks, just listening indifferently as if it had nothing to do with him. A thought suddenly struck me. The attitude of your partner's friends depends on how your boyfriend treats you. I felt slightly nauseated and frowned faintly. As the chair scraped against the floor with a creak, the laughter among those present abruptly ceased. Marcus lifted his eyelids indifferently, swept a heavy gaze over the boys present, then let out a derisive snort. He clearly said nothing, yet it was as if he had said everything. Louis's expression instantly became incredibly vivid, his smile frozen on his face. He glanced at Marcus somewhat awkwardly, then lightly coughed and changed the subject, realizing that this man, whom I had only met once, was coming to my aid. My emotions became complicated. My boyfriend, with whom I had been for so long, the boyfriend I considered the light of my life, was actually worse than a stranger. For the rest of the meal, Louis wore a sour expression. I could tell he was in a bad mood, but I found it strange. What exactly had put him in such a mood? Was it his friend's teasing, or perhaps Marcus's defense, that made Louis feel humiliated? I couldn't fathom what he was thinking. Louis threw the pig's ear into my bowl as if venting his anger. The greasy thing made me nauseous. I discreetly picked up the pig's ear and tossed it into the nearby trash bin. The person beside me momentarily held their breath. Louis was glaring at me intently. I knew he was displeased. I had always been obedient and docile before. This was the first time I'd refused food he'd served me, publicly ruining his mood. It's just disgusting. I even feel that it's not just the pig's ears. Anything his chopsticks have touched makes me sick. For the latter half of the evening, Louis kept drinking. Perhaps it was because Marcus was present, but the group stopped joking and ate in silence. The atmosphere was oppressive and eerie, yet Marcus continued eating quietly as if completely unaware. During Louis pretended to casually serve me food several more times, not wanting to compromise myself. I didn't take a single bite, throwing it all straight into the trash. Louis's expression was a sight to behold, but with everyone present, he couldn't very well use sign language to ask me. He wanted to gossip with his girlfriend like any normal couple would, whispering in my ear. He asked what was wrong, then quietly told me to give him a little face. He could see the ear hidden beneath my cascading hair, yet in the end, he did not draw near. He was depressed, or to put it more strongly, in an extremely foul mood. Seeing the crimson at the corners of his eyes, I knew Louis was drunk. He said he was going to pay the bill, and I sat quietly in the private room waiting for him. But his friends left one by one, and even after the last boy had gone, I still hadn't seen Louis. A long time later, only Marcus and I remained across from each other. He remained silent for a long while, glanced at me, let out a soft TSK, and picked up the coat beside him. Let's go, I'll take you home. I silently stood up, but he paused. I looked up at him, and a flicker of surprise crossed the man's eyes, followed by a scoff. Deaf and mute, little girl, are you playing games with me? My face burned red, but he didn't seem to care much. Gingling his car keys, address. After some thought, I still gave my home address. Father said I could stay at my own place first, and it wouldn't be too late to move back after the family recognition banquet in a week. Marcus drove steadily, with soothing music playing in the car. I watched the scenery reflected outside the window, and couldn't help but recall every little detail of how I met Louis. The first time I saw Louis was at an intersection. A large truck had run a red light by mistake, honking its horn all the way, as if its brakes had failed. People around me scattered away, but I couldn't hear a thing. A refreshing gust of wind blew by, and I widened my eyes to see the boy in front of me angrily pull me aside. His face flushed crimson as he pointed at the roaring truck speeding past, shouting something with great force. Seeing me remain unmoved, he seemed to grow even angrier. I saw the shape of his mouth clearly. If you want to die, pick somewhere farther away. Do you know that getting turned into mincemeat on the main road could easily scare children? Later, Louis apologized to me for a long time after realizing I couldn't hear. He barged into my life just like that, like a beam of light. He learned sign language for me, clumsily gesturing. He searched online for how to communicate with the deaf and mute. I wanted to tell him I wasn't born deaf and mute. I could speak, I just didn't want to anymore. At the age of 10, my adoptive father slapped me down the stairs, and my world fell completely silent. 2 of my teeth were knocked out. I couldn't hear, and when I spoke, the air whistled through. It must have sounded especially ridiculous. I could see my classmates doubled over with laughter. Though I wasn't sure if it was because of my inaccurate pronunciation, so I simply shut my mouth. But Louis, perhaps afraid of touching a nerve, seemed convinced I was born deaf and mute, telling me there was no need to feel inferior. The car door made a sound, and when I turned around, I saw Marcus frowning as he looked outside. You live in a place like this? I nodded, then shook my head. I would be moving out of here soon. He didn't ask anything else, just left me a string of numbers. If you need anything, you can call this number. He thought for a moment and then added, this isn't mine, it's my assistant's. Don't feel inconvenienced. I nodded, thanking him for his kindness. He glanced at me and drove off. For the next few days, I didn't see Louis again. I blocked his contact information. Every second I spent with him made me painfully aware of how foolish I was. It wasn't until the family reunion dinner a week later that my father came to pick me up early. He looked at the name in my book and remained silent for a long time. From now on, you'll be called Ruby Carlson. I nodded. What it was called didn't matter to me. The family reunion banquet was even more extravagant than I had imagined. Like a puppet, I was pulled along to get styled and dressed in a lavish gown, staring at the mirror where my ears were deliberately concealed. I curled my lips in a mocking smile, no matter how much they tried to hide it. I was still a deaf person who could only hear a little with the help of hearing aids. When my father led me to the very center of the banquet hall, I looked up and immediately met a pair of calm amber eyes. It was Marcus. Unlike his lazy appearance that day, he was now dressed in an exquisite black suit. His gaze at me filled with undisguised surprise. Then, as if recalling something amusing, he raised his glass with a smile and gave it a slight shake in my direction. My face flushed slightly as I suddenly recalled his teasing remark, "Little girl, you're quite the liar." I cleared my throat softly, and when I looked up again, I saw Louis frozen in place not far away. His eyes widened as he stared at me in disbelief. After a long while, his breathing grew increasingly rapid, the wine glass in his hand nearly slipping from his grasp as he strode quickly toward me. Seeing him take the initiative to approach, my father's eyes crinkled with delight. He tugged my arm forward to meet him halfway. "Ruby, let me introduce you. This is the young master of the Marshall family. You're about the same age. Why not get to know each other?" Meeting Louis's surprised gaze, I spoke softly yet firmly. "Father, I don't like him. Can we arrange for someone else?" Apparently not expecting me to say this, Father froze. Louis's footsteps halted as he frowned and stared intently at me. "Ruby, so you're the youngest daughter of the Marshall family. Why didn't you tell me?" He seemed to realize I couldn't hear him, then anxiously set down his wine glass, trying to communicate with me through sign language. I silently watched his clown-like performance before speaking first. "Yes, surprised, Louis, my lord." My father noticed we knew each other and sensed the awkward tension between us, letting out an awkward chuckle. "Ruby, you two know each other." He then looked at Louis and explained to him. Our Ruby indeed had some hearing difficulties before, not long ago. I took her to get hearing aids installed. "Don't worry, it won't affect daily activities." He brought me back specifically for the arranged marriage. This couldn't be the reason for rejection. How long ago? How long is not long ago? Louis turned deathly pale upon hearing these words. He opened his mouth, but didn't know where to begin. He dared not ask. He feared hearing that terrifying answer. But then, as if remembering something, he couldn't help but grow furious again. He stepped forward, grabbed my hand, and forcibly dragged me to a corner. Father didn't follow us this time, watching the chest of Louis before me heaving violently. As if suppressing a bellyful of rage, I found it strange. What right did he have to be angry? But Louis didn't see it that way. He confronted me with righteous indignation. "Ruby, Do you think it's fun to mess with me? Your ears are fine. You can speak, why didn't you tell me? Did you find it amusing watching me use sign language over there? Honestly, it wasn't amusing at all. I cut off his aggressive tone, but if I had spoken earlier, I wouldn't have heard Lewis's brilliant remarks. What? Is my current status still not satisfactory to you? Lewis seemed to realize something, yet he still refused to admit it. Ruby, what are you talking about? I don't understand, is that so? I looked at the red wine in my hand. I'm no longer the poor deaf-mute girl. I'm the young lady of the Carlson family you might have to marry into. Nor am I as obedient as I appear. Still want to play along with me. Now Lewis was certain I'd heard everything. He couldn't keep up the pretense any longer. He completely panicked, stepping forward to grab my arm, his voice filled with urgency. Ruby, those words were just nonsense, I blurted out. If I'd known you could hear me, I wouldn't have said it like that. This statement genuinely disgusted me, and I shot him a look of contempt. Then I hope next time Lewis runs into a deaf-mute girl, he'll watch his words, just in case she happens to hear. You're truly disgusting. Lewis staggered as these words spoken by Ruby somehow pierced him with unbearable pain. His chest felt as if struck by a violent blow, the dull ache spreading throughout his entire body. He reached out to grasp at her, but the girl had already turned and walked away. At dinner, Father gently set down his chopsticks. You know the young master of the Marshall family? I nodded. Quite a special relationship, isn't it? Listening to his subtle probing, I didn't respond. He sighed deeply. Ruby, don't act impulsively. With that, he got up and left, leaving only my elder sister slowly eating at the dinner table. I gently set down my chopsticks and turned to head back to my room, but she called out to stop me. Ruby, if you and Lewis still have a chance, don't be petty. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. You're a smart girl. I knew exactly what she meant. Eldest sister is getting engaged next month. She's about to marry an old man who doesn't love her. I've seen him. He looks even older than father, completely bald on top. Rumor has it 2 of his previous wives have died. Father rushed me back home precisely because the family needed this political marriage. It's laughable, in this day and age. We're still resorting to the archaic practice of offering princesses as peace offerings. He gave me excellent conditions and helped me get the best cochlear implant. I'll never be able to repay him. Perhaps fearing I'd be difficult to control, my father started frequently arranging for me to attend banquets where Lewis would be present. After encountering Lewis for the 3rd time, I spotted Marcus not far away, and a nascent idea suddenly sparked in my mind. Before I could even react, I found my feet were already moving towards him of their own accord. He looked up at me, showing no surprise at my approach. Mrs. Ruby, long time no see. I lowered my glass and gently clinked it against his. You can call me Ruby. He raised an eyebrow as he stared at the wine glass in my hand. Are you even old enough to drink? His teasing instantly shattered the previously ambiguous atmosphere. I glared at him, slightly annoyed. Do I really look that young? I'm 21. He pursed his lips and glanced at the menacing Lewis nearby. So young, your father really couldn't wait. We all knew what he was referring to. Why choose me? He took a sip of his drink. Perhaps it was because you stood up for me back then. I thought you had good character, as if he'd heard something amusing. Marcus nearly dropped the wine glass in his hand and began to cough heavily. I felt a bit awkward. Wasn't it said that complimenting a man could bring you closer? Why did this man seem so impervious? Is what I said really that funny? The atmosphere over there was too harmonious. Lewis's anger burned fiercer in his chest. In the past, Ruby had only him by her side. Even though Ruby was beautiful enough, she was a deaf-mute who couldn't communicate, so everyone kept their distance. For the first time, he realized that Ruby was also a charming and beautiful girl with a strong personality. Ruby's blushing, reproachful expression was painfully glaring in his eyes. He strode forward in a few steps and interrupted their conversation. Looking at the suddenly appearing Lewis, I decided to ignore him. All right. Lewis grabbed my arm and immediately turned to head out the door. He was still as domineering as ever. Instinctively, I tried to shake him off. But my other arm was caught by someone else. I turned to look and saw Marcus casually holding a glass of wine in one hand while gripping my arm with the other. His palm was scorching hot, his tone still playful, yet carrying an undeniable authority. I wanted to say this last time. Did old man Lewis never teach you what manners are? This lady is speaking to me right now. Lewis seemed unprepared for Marcus to humiliate him in public. His face flushed crimson, and he awkwardly released his grip. The commotion had grown noticeable enough that I was surprised to see my father approaching from across the room. I remember today's banquet was just for me and my sister to attend. When did he arrive, and how long had he been watching? Marcus, His eyes were fixed intently on Marcus, as if he had spotted some incredible treasure, eagerly extending the wine glass in his hand. "How is your father doing? I haven't had time to visit him recently. If there's a chance, I hope Marcus can put in a good word for me in front of your father." As he spoke, he patted my shoulder with satisfaction. "Ruby, I never expected you to know Marcus. You're about the same age. You should spend more time with peers. Our Ruby has always been introverted since childhood. President Truman, do take her out more often." I concealed the mockery in my eyes as I watched him craft this image of a doting father. Truth be told, he doesn't even remember what I looked like as a child. Beside us, Louis turned pale then flushed repeatedly. The same Carlson family father who'd been fussing over him just days ago now acted as if he didn't exist. In the face of absolute power, he was completely ignored. But what bothered him wasn't that. It was Ruby's eyes. Just now, the moment he grabbed Ruby's arm, he distinctly felt a strong, resistant pull. Ruby detested his touch. He gripped the wine glass in his hand, annoyed, and his gaze towards Marcus was no longer as reverent as before. After father left, Louis still didn't leave, but I didn't spare him a single glance, and neither did Marcus. He stared at me silently for a long time. "You don't have to be so tired. Why did you have to come back?" I suppose he had also heard some rumors and knew about my father's plan to sell his daughter. A bitter taste filled my mouth, and I gently tapped the hearing aid by my ear. "I need money, a lot of it." He seemed surprised by my frankness. Pausing for a moment before his smile grew even brighter, he pointed to his suit pocket. "That's quite a coincidence. I have money, lots of it." Beside us, Louis's face darkened completely. The two of us ignored him entirely, which pissed him off. Young Master Louis had never suffered such humiliation before. He desperately squeezed himself between us. "Ruby, I have plenty of money too." I lifted my eyelids to look at him. "Oh, then tell me, in these 2 years we've been together, what have you ever bought for me?" Louis's expression froze. He had never spent a single penny on me, only making empty promises every time. I sidestepped him and turned, walking towards the main hall of the banquet. When I left school, the weather was still clear, but before I even reached the bus stop, it started pouring. June weather is truly frustrating. A roaring motorcycle pulled up in front of me. I looked up and saw Louis's handsome face. Rainwater trickled down his sharp jawline inch by inch. Louis truly had striking features, even drenched like a drowned rat. He remained ridiculously handsome. He removed his helmet and handed it to me, wiping the rain from his face with a brilliant smile. Just like old times, he magically produced a lemon-yellow raincoat. In the past, Louis loved taking me around the city on his motorcycle. Though I couldn't hear the sounds, I could feel the wind whistling past my ears. Louis specially went to buy a cartoon yellow duck raincoat, just to pick me up and drop me off at school even on rainy days. "Ruby, get in the car." I stood still as a car quietly pulled up in front of us. The black stretch Lincoln, washed by the rain, exuded an air of luxury. Marcus held a pitch-black umbrella as he slowly stepped out of the car, a soft woolen coat in his hand. Without a word, he handed the coat to me and tilted the umbrella toward my side. Marcus still carried the faint warmth from the car. The corners of my eyes crinkled as I draped the coat over my shoulders. Under the shelter of his umbrella, I turned and settled into the back seat. I could see Louis was furious. He slammed his motorcycle down violently and hurled his helmet at the car's taillight with all his might. My eyelids twitched violently, and I looked at Marcus, who was sitting beside me. He still looked indifferent, lazy and unconcerned, as if he didn't care at all, yet. He still rolled down the window and said to the furious Louis, "I'll send the bill to your dad's phone later." Louis widened his eyes, and I couldn't help but burst into laughter, as the car gradually pulled away from the bus stop. I raised an eyebrow slightly at Louis still standing in the pouring rain. "What's wrong?" Feeling sorry for him, Marcus teased from the side, and I shook my head. "I just feel bad for that motorcycle I rode so many times. It was just casually discarded by the roadside once it lost its usefulness." He abandoned it without a second thought. I averted my gaze and didn't look back again. When my sister got engaged, father was overjoyed. He got drunk and hosted a banquet for many guests. My brother-in-law brought him a lot of resources, making the entire wedding grand and magnificent. If one were to overlook the tears welling up in the eyes of the wedding's protagonists, this wedding would have been even more perfect. Watching the two exchange rings, father leaned towards me, as if hinting at something. "Your sister is accomplished and capable. She's brought a lot of good things to our family, Ruby." Watching Marcus approach me slowly, Marcus lowered his voice. "You should have held on tight. Such a good opportunity doesn't come often." I lowered my eyelids, hiding the turmoil in my mind. Father must have thought Marcus's hearing wasn't that sharp, but unexpectedly Marcus heard, "Uncle, were you referring to me?" His father hadn't expected him to be so blunt, and for a moment, he felt a little awkward. Marcus's voice wasn't quiet, and many people turned their heads to watch the commotion. His father chuckled. "I was just joking." Marcus shook his head. "I wasn't joking, but uncle, you got one thing wrong. You shouldn't have taught Ruby how to handle men. You should have taught me how to pursue Ruby." Before the words had fully left my mouth, father erupted into violent coughing. Many people turned their heads in surprise to look at me. After all, the Truman family was someone everyone in this circle wanted to cozy up to. I hadn't expected Marcus to show me such face, considering I was just a flawed girl who'd recently been brought into upper society. It was the first time I'd been looked at with such envious and astonished gazes by so many people, and my heartbeat couldn't help but quicken. Marcus, however, seemed completely oblivious. He continued eating pastries at his leisure, occasionally dropping one into my bowl. The gaze from not far away was far too conspicuous. I couldn't ignore it even if I tried. Louis was staring at us intently, not daring to approach again and risk provoking Marcus's temper. He had been waiting after the banquet and cornered me at the restroom entrance. As I stepped out of the restroom, I saw Louis. I tried to sidestep him and leave quickly, but found he'd completely blocked my path. "Ruby, how can you be so naive? Do you really think you're charming enough to make Marcus bow to you?" My eyebrows twitched violently. "Here we go again." Louis always told me in a condescending tone that I wasn't worthy. Louis didn't notice my expression. He just kept talking to himself. "Do you know why Marcus approached you?" "Because of me." He pointed to himself, curling his lips into a mocking sneer as he looked at me. "My father and Marcus's father are rivals on a project. You're my girlfriend, and he's using you to spite me. Do you really think he could be interested in His gaze lingered on my cochlear implant, but he ultimately kept silent. "Ruby, believe me, I'm the one who loves you most. We've been together so long, we understand each other." Unable to bear his grating voice any longer, I removed the cochlear implant and simply watched him in silence, apparently unprepared for this reaction. Louis froze momentarily before his eyes suddenly reddened. I could see the shape of his mouth forming words, speaking to me. "Do you really hate me that much?" I nodded. "Yes, I don't want to hear your voice at all. It's the most disgusting thing since I regained my hearing." "Louis, stop playing the devoted lover. You actually look down on me. You keep proclaiming your love, yet every word you say belittles me. Don't talk about being unworthy of Marcus. You probably think I'm not even good enough for you. If I weren't the eldest daughter of the Carlson family, if I didn't have the social standing to match yours, would you still be chasing after me?" Louis flashed a look of panic in his eyes. His mouth opened wide as he struggled to explain something, but he spoke too quickly for me to decipher his lip movements. He seemed to realize this too, frantically switching to sign language in his haste. I averted my gaze, looking at Marcus not far away. "Even if he doesn't like me, he's a million times better than you." "Louis, you're trash. Someone insults your girlfriend right in front of you, and you actually smile and agree, because deep down you think they're right. You've never respected me. But Marcus is different. He gives me enough respect in front of others, even when I didn't know him at all." Perhaps the tenderness in my eyes when I looked in Marcus's direction stung Louis, and he completely lost control of his emotions. He forcefully turned my face towards him, frantically making hand gestures. I saw his slender fingers trembling. "What has he done for you, Ruby? Would he learn sign language for you?" "Look, I've been learning sign language for you for so long, I'm willing to do anything for you. I already know I was wrong. I only made this one mistake. Won't you forgive me just this once?" I shook my head faintly, looking at his crimson-tinged eyes and trembling hands. At least he wouldn't abandon me on the spot, nor would he turn his back to tell others it was just a fling with me. The words "just a fling" seemed to pierce straight through Louis's heart, making him shudder uncontrollably. He cupped my face with both hands and told me earnestly, "It wasn't just a fling. I spoke wrongly. I deserve to die. I'll never say such things again." I was gently pulled out of Louis's embrace. A pair of warm hands took the hearing aid from my palm, gently brushed away the stray hairs near my ear, and carefully put my hearing aid back on. He was very close, his breath caressing my ear. The moment the hearing aid connected, I heard his heart pounding like a drum. "I think you got one thing wrong." Marcus held my hand, then turned to look at Louis. "I approached Ruby just to get back at you. You overestimate yourself." He let out a derisive laugh, as if hearing some ridiculous joke. "I never actually learned sign language for her." He lowered his gaze, looking at me tenderly. "I wanted her to live like a normal person. I wanted her to be free from these hearing aids. I stared blankly at him. Marcus, who was proudly swiping through his phone. I've already contacted the top ENT doctor. And I just spoke with Uncle Lin. I think we can leave in a few days. My eyes felt warm. Someone I'd been with for 2 years said they were just playing with me, while someone I'd just met was planning everything for me. Louis stretched out his stiff fingers, wanting to grasp the two figures walking further and further away, but Ruby walked too fast, and his vision blurred slightly. He chased after her for 2 steps, Ruby never once looking back, that sweet, warm little girl, the one who would cover her mouth and giggle when he made a mistake in sign language. She never looked back at him again. When I arrived at the airport, I saw Louis rushing towards me. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was frantically running around the airport lobby until our eyes met, and he stumbled towards me. Ruby, Ruby. He gripped my arm like a fish nearly deprived of water. While I silently watched him, Louis tremblingly pulled out a stack of papers from his coat and placed them before me. Ruby, don't go with him. I can take you to see excellent doctors too. I can give you everything I have. Look, this is the equity transfer agreement for my shares. If you stay with me, I can give you the money you want. I've already spoken to your father. As long as you're willing to be with me, I can transfer all these shares to him. I looked at him, never feeling more disgusted than at this moment. Louis, do you think you're being deeply affectionate? Not seeing any trace of delight in my eyes, Louis looked somewhat lost. Louis, I'm not an object. You're using these to trade for me with my father. What position does that put me in? If my father agreed, then go marry him instead. Whether in the past or now, you've never treated me as a person worthy of respect. Maybe you see me as some little accessory attached to you, or a pet, but I'm a human being. Seeing Marcus approaching from afar, I shoved the stack of papers back into his arms. I'm getting engaged to Marcus. He'll give me all these things too, just not in this way. Seeing his dejected look, I told him, Louis, if you like someone, you must first respect her. You need to win her over, not her father. You must show your sincerity and respect. You need to treat her as your equal. With that, I turned and took Marcus's hand to leave. Louis stood frozen in place, watching us walk away. I never imagined I could remove my hearing aids and still hear the world again. The surgery was successful, and Marcus held our engagement banquet abroad with me. The day I put on my wedding dress, the security guard dragged a disheveled man in front of me. I frowned, pondering for a moment, before I recognized him as Louis. How did he end up here? I was surprised. Marcus said that Louis's unauthorized transfer of shares had completely enraged his father. The Marshall family didn't have just one child. The competition among the younger generation was fierce. Louis lost his inheritance rights. His father said as long as he stayed quietly in the country, there would still be opportunities in the future. Yet, here he was. I looked at the unshaven, gaunt Louis, who barely looked human. Then why is he here? Ask him yourself. Marcus turned and walked out, leaning against the doorframe at a distance neither too far nor too close from us. I stepped forward and poked Louis's arm. It took him a long moment before he finally lifted his eyelids. When he saw it was me, his breathing involuntarily quickened. But before long, he resignedly let out a heavy sigh. Did I actually faint near your place? Louis, what are you doing here? He didn't answer me, instead staring greedily into my eyes. Ruby, why don't you go back to your home country? I glanced at Marcus not far away. Because I want to grow. I don't want to become my father's pawn. Marcus is willing to help me. I want to take control of my own life. I hope I can live a different version of myself here. Louis's smile grew even more bitter at the corners of his mouth. If you're not going back, what about me? I didn't understand what he meant. You're so amazing, Ruby. If possible, I'd wish even more than you that we'd never met. You made me fall in love with you, then completely abandoned me. I tried to let go. His eyes were filled with anguish as he lowered his head, tears falling heavily to the ground. I had never seen Louis in such a disheveled state. He seemed utterly broken. I've never loved anyone like this before. I thought if I drank more or worked harder, I could forget you. But Ruby, without you, I can't breathe for even a moment. I'm so miserable. I can't even breathe in my own home. I want to be by your side. Even if you don't love me. Even if you don't want to see me. Do you know what I was thinking when I stepped onto this land? I've never felt this light before. I'm finally breathing the same air as you again. You're finally within my reach once more. I don't dare hope for your love anymore. Nor do I ask for your forgiveness, Ruby. Just let me stay where you are. I gazed with mixed emotions at the babbling Louis, momentarily at a loss for words. Marcus's sinister voice came from behind. Do you really think my temper is so good that you can brazenly steal from me like this? Louis was still deported back to his home country by Marcus. What he conveyed to Lewis's father was that Lewis had severe mental illness and suggested finding a good psychiatric hospital for him to stay in as soon as possible. On the night of our wedding, Marcus gently whispered in my ear, this time, even without a hearing aid, I could hear him exceptionally clearly. He said, "Do you know what I was laughing about when you said I had good character during our second meeting?" I looked at him in confusion. Had I really said something like that? He burst out laughing. "You're adorably naive, I think. My character has never been good. I fell in love at first sight with my best friend's girlfriend." The ear he was pressing against burned crimson with heat. My ears heard the sweetest whispers.